Racine, Wisconsin, April 24th, 2022. Just after sunrise. Brittany Booker was 30 years old, a mother of 6, and she was found brutally murdered inside her own car, her body bearing multiple injuries and a gunshot wound to the head. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't random. This was murder. He killed her. He shot her dead. It happened in the early morning hours near 13th and Villa Street, while most of the city was still asleep, while children were still dreaming, while phones sat untouched on nightstands, while life carried on as if nothing had changed. But for Brittany Booker, everything ended right there. What if the woman who survived his first attempt on her life was hunted again? What is the system meant to protect her failed her instead? In the hours before she was killed, Brittany did something millions of women do every day. She walked out of her home. She trusted someone she knew, someone she had already survived once, a man standing just outside her door. A Ring doorbell camera caught it all, a quiet moment that no one thought would matter. Brittany stepping outside, a brief exchange. No screaming, no chaos. Just a woman leaving her house unaware she would never return. That image would later become unbearable to watch, because when police found her, she was alone, slumped in her car, her life taken violently, her voice silenced. And almost immediately the questions began. How does a woman survive a violent attack and still end up dead weeks later? How many warnings were missed? How many chances were there to stop this? If you would subscribe just to make sure her story is never forgotten, hit subscribe now. And if you won't, tell us why you're choosing silence in the comments, because silence is part of how this happened. Before Brittany Booker became a headline, she was a name spoken every day in her children's lives. She was laughter in a kitchen, a voice on the phone, a presence that made people feel safe, even when she wasn't safe herself. And for the next few moments, we're going to stop, not to rush, not to explain, but to remember. Brittany Booker, 30 years old, mother of 6. This is the version of her the world rarely slows down for, the woman before the crime scene, before the police tape, before the word murder swallowed her name. As her photo fills the screen, let the music fall low, let the noise fade. Say her name in the comments, tag someone who needs to hear her story. Her life mattered. And when the silence ends, we'll begin to trace the moments that led here, carefully, honestly, and without looking away. She grew up knowing how to take up space without demanding it, the kind of presence that felt warm instead of loud, the kind people leaned into without realizing why. Brittany Booker was raised in Racine, Wisconsin, in a family where love was not perfect, but it was consistent, where laughter could break tension, and where loyalty meant showing up even when it was hard. She learned early how to care for others, how to put someone else's needs before her own, how to keep going even when she was tired. By the time she became a mother, that instinct was already part of her. Being a mom was not something she tried on. It was something she lived every single day. 6 children, 6 different personalities, 6 little lives orbiting around her voice, her rules, her patience, her hugs. In photos, you see it right away. Brittany smiling wide at birthday parties, leaning over a cake with candles melting too fast, one child on her hip, another tugging of her sleeve, someone laughing just out of frame. These are not posed moments. These are real moments, the kind that happen when a camera is nearby, but life is already moving. Her children's laughter filled rooms. You could hear it in the background of videos, in the way people who loved her talked about her. To them, she was the one who kept things together, the one who remembered appointments, who answered the phone, who showed up even when she was running on empty. Her father used to say she was a daddy's girl, the kind who called just to check in, the kind who never stopped being his little girl no matter how old she got. When he spoke about her after her death, his voice carried a weight no parent should have to carry. He said he would have traded places with her. Any parent hearing that understands exactly what he meant. Brittany was not a headline to her family. She was a daughter who mattered, a sister who listened, a friend who made people feel less alone. She had flaws, like every human being. She made choices that people can question in hindsight, but she loved deeply, and she loved loudly, and she loved with her whole body. That matters, because too often when Black women are killed, the story rushes past who they were and jumps straight to how they died. Brittany deserved more than that. She deserved to be known for the way her kids ran toward her, for the way she laughed, for the way she kept going even when life pressed hard against her. She was needed, she was loved, and she should still be here. If you believe every Black mother deserves protection, not excuses, drop a dove in the comments. After you understand who Brittany was, you begin to see why what came next did not look dangerous at first, why it blended into the kind of everyday choices women make when they are trying to help, trying to keep the peace, trying to believe the best in people they already know. On February 20th, 2022, Brittany agreed to pick up Terry Jackson and drive him to a court date. It was daytime, it was familiar, it was not framed as a threat. Inside the car, though, the air shifted. During that ride, Terry Jackson became violent. He put his hands around her throat. He threatened her life. He looked at her and told her, "You are going to die." Those words did not come during a fight between strangers. They came inside a car she had already allowed back into her space. Brittany survived that moment, but survival does not always look like safety. It often looks like trying to explain what just happened without fully accepting what it means. Friends say she talked through it the way many women do, minimizing pieces of it, softening the edges, telling herself and others that he was not always like that, that something had set him off, that maybe it wouldn't happen again. This is where denial lives, not in stupidity, but in hope. Just 1 week later, on February 27th, 2022, that hope was shattered in a way no one could ignore. Terry Jackson attacked Brittany again, this time with a hammer, and another woman was with her when it happened. Both women survived, but the injuries were severe. Emergency lights cut through the night. Officers speak in low voices. Cameras flash. Gloves move slowly, carefully, preserving what can never bring her back, but may one day explain how she was taken. The timeline investigators begin piecing together shows that after Brittany left her home that morning, she never regained control of her safety. Evidence collected from inside the car reflects a violent struggle, confirming what her injuries already reveal. Each photograph, each measurement, each report is another reminder that someone chose to end her life, someone who already showed he was capable of it. As word spreads, the emotional shock hits her family and friends like a wave they cannot step away from. A father hears that his daughter is gone. 6 children lose their mother in a single moment they will spend the rest of their lives trying to understand. And as the scene is processed, as investigators gather what they can, one question hangs over everything. How did it reach this point when there were warnings, when there was history, when there was proof that she was in danger?
Now to a manhunt for an accused killer in Racine. Have you seen this man? Police are sharing these new photos today in their search for Terry Jackson. He is wanted for last Sunday's fatal shooting of 30-year-old Brittany Booker. Now her father talked to our Tony Atkins today, pleading for help to track Jackson down.
Outside Brittany's house, candles, many of them still lit, as people came to honor a mother taken way too soon from her children. This was Brittany Booker, a mother of 6, a friend, a sister.
Brittany was a loving, wonderful kid, man.
She's also Leonard Larry's daughter. Leonard desperate to find justice.
Man. She didn't have to die like that.
Police say Brittany was killed last Sunday by this man, 41-year-old Terry Jackson, who's still on the run. On this doorbell camera, her final moment seen reluctantly walking outside her home with Jackson, leaving her kids inside at 5 a.m. At the family's request, we aren't showing the video.
It was like my daughter looked back, like saying, help me, you know what I mean? And my daughter would have ran, but she took that for her kids. to see when we go back in there and do it to the kids.
Leonard says his daughter begged for help before she was killed. She was a friend of Jackson's ex-girlfriend. Jackson is accused of attacking that woman with a hammer in February. I went into the backyard of the home with Leonard, who's still cautious because his daughter's killer is still out there.
Listen, we ain't have the woods yet. And like I said, this guy is pretty much doing what he want to do it. And I don't understand it. I need your eyes. Anybody's eyes all over. Please help me. You know, when my daughter killer Jessica, Brittany, I promise you, this case is not going to go.
And the message from Brittany's father very clear as they continue looking for Jackson. If you have any information, you have to contact police or call Crime Stoppers. Reporting in Racine, Tony Atkins, TMJ4 News.
All right, take another look at these images of Terry Jackson. You can share them from our TMJ4 News Facebook page. Now, Crime Stoppers is offering a $2,000 reward for information leading to Jackson's arrest.
The silence around the car feels like it is asking that question out loud. What should have happened but did not? Say it. The grief does not arrive quietly. It crashes into families, into streets, into rooms that still carry her voice. Within hours of the news spreading, people gather, drawn together by shock and disbelief, standing in places Brittany once stood alive. Candlelight flickers as names are spoken out loud, tears falling freely, hands shaking as balloons are released into the sky, each one carrying a message that feels too heavy to hold alone. Friends tell stories through sobs, remembering her laugh, her strength, the way she showed up for others even when she was hurting. Children cling to adults who do not have the words to explain why their mother is not coming home. In the middle of that grief stands Brittany's father, his pain raw and visible, his voice breaking as he speaks to cameras and to anyone who will listen. He asks for help. He asks the public to pay attention. He says he needs eyes and ears everywhere. He says they have to find the man responsible for taking his daughter's life. This is a parent begging the world to care as much as he does, to refuse indifference, to refuse forgetting. As investigators work the case, another layer of anger begins to surface. Authorities revealed that after Brittany was attacked with a hammer weeks earlier, there were people who helped Terry Jackson evade accountability. Women are arrested for assisting him, charged with helping him flee before the murder, charged with protecting someone who had already shown he was capable of extreme violence. That knowledge hits the community hard. It raises questions about loyalty, fear, and the cost of silence. While Brittany was trying to survive, while she was carrying fear quietly, there were people actively helping the danger move freely. This is where grief sharpens into something else. This is where heartbreak turns into rage. Because Brittany did not need sympathy after she was killed. She needed protection before it happened. She needed systems that responded with urgency. She needed people to take her fear seriously. And instead, she was left exposed. As vigils continue and her name echoes through the streets, the reality becomes impossible to ignore. A woman reported violence. A woman survived multiple attacks. A woman was still forced to walk out her door alone. She needed protection, yet the world looked away. Tag someone who must hear this story. Share it now. As the shock settles, another truth comes into focus, quieter but just as devastating, the way the response unfolded after the warnings were already written in real injuries and real fear. Law enforcement did respond to incidents connected to Brittany. Reports were taken, investigations opened, but what never came was a public sense of urgency that matched the danger she was in. There were no widespread alerts that reflected how serious the threat had become, no loud warnings that a violent man who had already attacked was still free to move through the community. The system moved in pieces instead of as a whole, and those gaps mattered. When violence against Black women is treated as isolated moments instead of continuing risk, protection becomes conditional, delayed, or incomplete. Advocates for survivors have been saying this for years, that when Black women report fear, pain, or threats, their voices are often weighted down by doubt, by questions that should never be asked of someone who is already hurt. Were you sure? Did you provoke it? Are you exaggerating? Those doubts do not always show up in words. Sometimes they show up in silence, in slow processes, in a lack of follow-through that leaves someone exposed. Brittany's case fits into a larger pattern that many families recognize immediately, one where repeated violence does not trigger escalating protection, one where survival is mistaken for safety. Domestic violence advocates explain that untreated patterns grow more dangerous over time, especially when early warning signs are documented but not acted on with force. They talk about how fear becomes normalized, how communities learn to live around known threats, how systems built to protect can fail the people who need them most. Brittany did what survivors are often told to do. She endured. She reported. She tried to move forward, and still she was left vulnerable. This is not just a story about one woman. It is about how many times a Black woman can say she is afraid before the response matches the risk. It is about what happens when concern is noted but not pursued, when danger is acknowledged but not contained. Do you think her death could have been prevented? Comment yes or no and tell us why. What remains after the headlines fade is not a case number or a court record. It is 6 children growing up with a silence that never existed before April 24, 2022. Today, they live with questions no child should have to carry, questions that do not have clean answers, questions that arrive at night and sit quietly during the day. Where is Mom? Why did this happen? Could someone have stopped it? Their grief does not look dramatic. It looks like missing shoes by the door that will never be filled again. It looks like birthdays where one chair stays empty. It looks like a future that has to be rebuilt without the woman who held it together. Brittany Booker is remembered in the way her children speak her name, in the way her family protects her memory, in the way her community refuses to let her become just another story people scroll past. Her life forces us to sit with discomfort, to acknowledge that love did not save her, that survival did not guarantee safety, that warning signs did not bring protection fast enough. This is the part of the story where transformation has to begin, not in words, but in attention, because attention is where change starts. When Black women scream for help, the world often turns down the volume. Not today, not here, not with Brittany Booker. If you are still here and you have not subscribed, subscribe now. And if you still will not, go ahead and explain why in the comments. We are listening.